10,000 years before the grim darkness before the Imperium became a rotting corpse ruled by fear and faith, humanity stood on the edge of perfection. The galaxy was being conquered not by monsters or gods, but by heroes, warriors engineered to be flawless, suns created to bring order to the stars. And yet, from this golden age was born the greatest betrayal in human history. Half of these warriors would turn on their own blood. Brother would slaughter brother. Hope would burn. Empires would collapse. And a single moment of pride, deception, and doubt would doom humanity to endless war. This is not just a backstory, this is the event that defines all of Warhammer 40,000. This is the Horus Heresy. To understand the Horus Heresy, we must return to a time when the Emperor of Mankind still walked among humanity. He was not a distant god on a throne, but a living ruler, a genius scientist, a conqueror, and a visionary who believed humanity could dominate the galaxy through reason, unity, and strength. To achieve this, he created the Primarchs, 20 superhuman sons, each designed to be the perfect general and leader. From their genetic legacy came the Space Marine Legions, armies of post-human warriors who would carry the Emperor's will to the farthest stars. Together, they launched the Great Crusade, a massive campaign to reunite lost human worlds and wipe out alien threats. It was an age of expansion, confidence, and unstoppable momentum. Humanity was winning, but beneath this triumph lay a fatal flaw. The Primarchs were not just weapons, they were beings with emotions, pride, ambition, and fear. When the Emperor appointed his most beloved son, Horus Lupercal, as Warmaster, giving him command of the entire crusade, it planted the seeds of disaster. Horus was a brilliant leader and a loyal son, but he was also vulnerable to doubt. As the Emperor withdrew from the crusade to pursue secret projects on Terra, Horus was left to rule in his absence. Whispers began to spread. Questions formed. And in the dark corners of the galaxy, ancient and malevolent gods watched patiently. Because while humanity believed it was shaping its own destiny, chaos had already begun to shape Horus's fall, and with it, the fate of the entire Imperium. Horus Lupercal was not just another Primarch. He was the first found, the most trusted, and the one the Emperor openly favored. Among all his brothers, Horus possessed a rare balance of charisma, tactical brilliance, and emotional intelligence. Space Marines did not merely obey him, they believed in him. When the Emperor named Horus Warmaster, granting him command over the entire Great Crusade, it seemed like a natural choice. Horus carried the Emperor's vision with pride, seeing himself not as a ruler, but as a servant of humanity's future. Yet this honor came with unbearable weight. For the first time, Horus stood above his brothers, and envy quietly began to fester. Some Primarchs questioned the decision. Others resented it. Horus himself struggled with doubt, wondering if he was truly worthy of his father's trust. When the Emperor suddenly withdrew to Terra, leaving Horus in command without explanation, that doubt deepened. Horus felt abandoned, burdened with responsibility while denied understanding. The Warmaster began to question why the Emperor demanded absolute loyalty, yet offered no transparency. It was in this emotional vulnerability, pride mixed with insecurity, that the foundations of betrayal were laid. The true corruption of Horus began on the plague-ridden moon of Davin. There, the word-bearers, led by the manipulative Erebus, orchestrated Horus's downfall with chilling precision. Mortally wounded by a chaos-tainted blade, Horus lay dying, his soul balanced between life and death. In a dark ritual, his spirit was drawn into the warp, where the chaos gods revealed visions crafted entirely from lies and half-truths. He was shown a future where the Emperor ruled as a god, where Horus was erased from history, remembered only as a traitor. The chaos gods whispered that the Emperor planned to discard his sons once they had served their purpose. To Horus, this revelation felt like betrayal by his own father. In desperation and rage, Horus chose rebellion, convincing himself that he was saving humanity from tyranny. When he awoke, Horus was no longer the Emperor's loyal son. He was the chosen champion of chaos, and the galaxy would soon burn. With Horus's fall, the Imperium split in two. Loyalists remained faithful to the Emperor, while traitors swore allegiance to Horus and the dark gods of the warp. Entire Space Marine legions turned against their former brothers. The galaxy descended into chaos as once unified forces clashed across countless worlds. Horus carefully gathered Primarchs already prone to anger, pride, or resentment, Angron, Fulgrim, Mortarion, Magnus, each falling to chaos in their own tragic way. Meanwhile, loyal Primarchs like Rogel Dorn, Sanguinius, and Guilliman struggled to hold the Imperium together. Communication broke down. Trust vanished. Worlds were exterminated simply for choosing the wrong side. This was no longer a crusade of unity, it was a civil war fought by demigods with weapons capable of annihilating entire civilizations. Humanity's greatest defenders became its executioners, and the dream of a rational Imperium began to collapse under its own bloodshed. The horror of the Horus Heresy became undeniable at Istvaan. On Istvaan III, Horus purged his own ranks, virus-bombing loyal Space Marines who still believed in him. Entire cities dissolved into toxic sludge as warriors choked and burned, betrayed without warning. Those who survived were hunted down by their former brothers. Soon after came Istvaan V, the Drop Site Massacre, a carefully planned ambush where loyalist legions were lured into battle and annihilated. Reinforcements arrived, only to reveal themselves as traitors. The battlefield became a slaughterhouse. Ferrus Manus, Primarch of the Iron Hands, was personally killed by Fulgrim, his closest brother. Istvaan marked the point of no return. The heresy was no longer hidden. The Imperium was officially at war with itself, and survival was no longer guaranteed. As the war spread, each Primarch's tragedy unfolded. Fulgrim surrendered his soul to chaos in pursuit of perfection, becoming a twisted parody of beauty. Angron, consumed by endless rage, ascended as a demon prince, losing what little humanity he had left. Magnus the Red, attempting to warn the Emperor, accidentally shattered the defenses of Terra and was branded a traitor, leading to the destruction of Prospero. Mortarion fell to Nurgle through despair and inevitability. Even loyalists suffered devastating losses, sacrificing entire worlds to slow Horus's advance. Victory became meaningless when measured against the cost. Every battle pushed the Imperium closer to collapse, proving that even gods could bleed and break. Eventually, Horus reached Terra itself. The Siege of Terra was the greatest war humanity had ever witnessed. Titans clashed like walking gods, orbital bombardments turned continents to ash, and the Imperial Palace became the final fortress of mankind. Rogel Dorn commanded the defenses while loyalists fought with the desperation of extinction. Sanguinius, the angelic Primarch, became a symbol of hope, holding the line against impossible odds. When Horus lowered Terra's shields, the Emperor launched a final assault. Aboard Horus's flagship, Sanguinius confronted the Warmaster and was brutally slain. The Emperor then faced Horus in a battle that shattered reality itself. In the end, the Emperor destroyed Horus utterly, but at a terrible price. When the battle ended, the Imperium lay in ruins. The Emperor was mortally wounded and entombed within the Golden Throne, neither alive nor dead. The Primarchs vanished, dead, corrupted, or lost to legend. The Imperium that emerged was no longer a vision of progress, but a paranoid, religious empire fueled by fear and ignorance. Chaos had not been defeated, only delayed. The Horus Heresy reshaped humanity forever, ensuring that in the far future, hope would be a forgotten luxury. And so the galaxy entered an age of eternal conflict, where the echoes of Horus's betrayal still define every war fought in the name of survival. And so the Horus Heresy came to an end, not with victory, but with survival. Horus was erased from existence, his rebellion crushed, yet the damage he caused could never be undone. The Emperor of Mankind, once a living symbol of humanity's future, was reduced to a silent figure bound to the Golden Throne, sustaining the Imperium at the cost of endless suffering. The dream of reason, unity, and enlightenment died with him. In its place rose an empire built on fear, blind faith, and eternal war. 10,000 years have passed, but the galaxy has never healed. The Imperium still fights the same enemies, guided by the same wounds inflicted during that ancient betrayal. Chaos still whispers, still tempts, still corrupts. The Space Marines still carry the genetic legacy of Primarchs who once stood as heroes and traitors alike. Every battle fought in the 41st millennium is a consequence of Horus's choice on Davin and the Emperor's failure to understand his own sons. The Horus Heresy is not just a story of good versus evil. It is a tragedy, a warning about pride, secrecy, and the cost of absolute power. It shows that even gods can fall, and that the greatest threats to humanity often come from within. And that is why, in the grim darkness of the far future, there is no peace, no hope of an ending, only war.